You're afraid to lose the image that you've built for yourself. You're very competent, you're very intelligent, you have many accomplishments, but you hold on to everything like you're so afraid to lose it. And you may tell others that you're not afraid to lose anything that you built, that you're not afraid to lose what you got. But the way you move and how restless you are at night, how guilty you feel every time you take a break, how everything carries a certain desperation, a sense of desperation, it shows me exactly who you are. You're a man who's afraid of losing the image he's built for himself. It's not about what you have, it's about that you're not sure if you can actually sustain who you've built yourself to be. You've made this image for yourself as someone who is competent, who is capable, but is also responsible for everything that you have now. And instead of trusting what the Most High has given you, trusting that you're able to rebuild it again if you do lose it, you hold on to everything because control feels like safety to you. And this is something I learned the hard way. Anything you're afraid of losing, you will lose, no matter what. No matter what, because you begin to overcompensate. You overcompensate by constantly working, constantly future pacing. Okay, well, if I get this done today, then I won't have the stress tomorrow. But the truth is, it's never enough. It's never enough because when you're trying to sustain an image of who you are to especially please other people, it's impossible. It's impossible. And the pressure and the tension will eventually beat you down if it hasn't already. This is something that I lived a couple years back when I had my business, I had my woman. Um, I had built myself to be very competent, especially very young. I'm 23 right now. I was 19 years old when I started my first business, really delved into it. And I had a lot of many I had a lot of life events that made me stand on my 2 feet, much quicker, stand on my own beliefs, stand in the business and, enter into a road of entrepreneurship. And, not to be too long winded, when I did finally reach that pinnacle, I realized something. Yes, I finally won. Yes, I finally proved to everybody, including to myself, that I was competent, I was capable, but the responsibility was so overbearing that I became so desperate not to lose who I made myself to be, who I made myself out to be, that it became too grievous. It became too heavy for me to carry. So now everything felt desperate. I felt so desperate. I felt like I was carrying a sense of urgency where, I could not fail because failure meant losing who I was, losing what I had, losing, especially my woman, man. I was so afraid of losing my woman that eventually I did, choke the relationship. I choked everything out of my life because control felt like safety to me. And when you're in that state of mind, you're really in a state where, you know, control is the only thing that is safe. And no matter how many things people tell you, you're fucked. You're fucked, especially if you let yourself get that way. Uh, One of the greatest examples that I've seen of this, especially in the movies, is Anakin Skywalker, Star Wars 3. If you have not seen that shit, bro, the shit's been out forever. You should go watch that shit if you haven't, okay? But in Star Wars, Anakin is so afraid of losing Padme, his wife, that eventually he turns over to the dark side because of the same reason. He's so afraid to lose her. He says, "Fuck it, I want to keep her alive." He knew she was meant to go. That was the prophecy that was said, but he was trying to prevent the prophecy instead of accept it, that he lost it. And for us men, when you're so afraid of losing, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you start overcompensating and you start moving so desperately, you're gonna lose it. You're going to lose it. If it's a relationship with a woman, you're gonna start acting needy, you're gonna start acting clingy, or you're gonna become like I did. You're gonna become over controlling, you're gonna become overbearing, you're gonna start making decisions that don't make fucking sense, that honestly make you out to be insecure. You know what I mean? See, and with the business, for me, it was like the pressure of sustaining the image wouldn't even allow me the capacity to even be able to work as much as I wanted. Yes, I was competent, capable, But I would self-sabotage opportunities because I didn't have the capacity. I couldn't even regulate because all I could think about was I can't fail the people that are counting on me. I gotta make it. I was stuck in such a survival mode that it choked me out literally. And then it started to downstream to every sector of my life. Every sector of my life. And that's what will happen to you when you're afraid of losing everything you've built, everything that you've got. You have to remember that you're the one who built it and really embody that. A part of us, it doesn't feel real when that happens. When you finally become the man that you say you would, when you finally prove it, it doesn't feel real. It's so surreal that it doesn't come with a sense of accomplishment. It comes with the fucking pressure. It comes with the weight. And that's really if you're performing. Like what I was doing is I was performing. You know what I mean? I was too afraid to really open up and tell someone, hey, I was afraid. I'm afraid of this. Had I probably would have been able to overcome it. But see, i I allowed all those emotions and I started lying to myself that I wasn't afraid, that, I know better. I know I shouldn't be afraid because I'm going to lose it, because I had the understanding of the lesson of whatever you're too afraid of, you will lose, or whatever you're afraid of losing, you will lose. But I didn't have the embodiment of it. And this is different between knowledge and wisdom embodiment. Really, like, it doesn't matter how much you know. If you can't embody it, if you can't hold it in your system, that shit goes out the window under a certain amount of pressure. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had all this pressure to sustain being this guy, being him, not realizing I was him. But the reason it was so shaky was because it was built off a foundation that, if the business was good, I was good. If the business was bad, I was bad. And when you allow your spirit, your identity to be attached to things in this world that can leave tomorrow, you're finished. You're finished. I also had my identity into the relationship with my woman. So what did that lead to? She fucking left. I lost all sense of self. you know it costed me everything, and it costed me myself. And it's been 2.5 years since, and it's taken me 2.5 years to get back to this point. But I'm glad it happened for me, because I was able to overcome those fears. I was able to overcome those doubts and really learn how to trust myself. Not feel like I constantly need to be in control, but I also learned how to have faith. And I'm talking about genuine faith, especially in the Most High, because it allowed me to let go and realize I can't control shit. I control everything, but I don't control shit. That's always what I say to people. I control everything, but I don't control shit. Meaning, I control what I output, but I really can't control any of these outcomes. And, that was something during that time where, my delusion, my greatest superpower, turned against me, where I was trying to control things I couldn't control. And anytime you try to control something, what, it goes the opposite way. It's like when you're chasing a cat, no no pun intended. When you're chasing a cat, that shit gonna run away from you. You know what I mean? And that applies to all areas of life, if y'all know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? um but really, anything you're afraid of losing, you will lose, including yourself. And you do not want to be in that state where you're trying to sustain an image of yourself for the sake of not looking weak, for the sake of, keeping it together. I'm not saying, deal with your emotions, in a healthy way, and like, well, in front of others, you know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, don't lie to yourself about your emotions, because that's something I did. I lied. I completely lied to myself. If you would have asked me back then, hey, are you afraid to lose everything I got? To your face, I would have told you, no, I'm not. Dead ass knowing that I was lying. Dead ass. And really the mechanism, of it, because we always talk about it, you know, on a psychological level. I I had entered into a phase where I was so afraid of being seen as the guy now, that the fears started to catch up to me. I felt like it was only a matter of time before I was exposed. So all your fears and delusions do come true. They do come true. If you're not grounded in faith in the Most High and someone heavenly, they will come true. Straight up, because you're at a point where you can't, like I said, you can't let go of control. And I was a man of faith during that time, so called. And the way I was moving like someone, who doesn't have any faith. And it wasn't because I wasn't competent, but it was because I needed so much control that it took me out of being present of every single moment of my life, you know. And I always repeat on this channel, a man's presence is a present, especially to the world. Everyone is different. Everyone carries a different spirit. Everyone carries himself differently, you know. We all have our own unique edge. But during that time period, I did not believe in myself like I thought I did. You know, I proved it, but anything to prove, anything you prove, it comes from lack. You know, I was lacking, that sense of self. So once I proved my sense of self, I felt like if I lost everything, there we go. That was my whole sense of self. And I'm sure if you've built your identity based off of accomplishment, being competent, being seen as the guy, you will lose that because the pressure will get to you because you know deep down inside you're playing a fucking character. You're playing a character of yourself, you know? And for me, it started to lead me down a path of self betrayal and really betrayal of the Most High. You know, I don't talk about that aspect of my story so much, but I started to forsake my faith because the pressure became so much. I started to feel like the Most High wasn't hearing my prayers. I started to feel like, I was abandoned. And it caused so much anxiety in me that, I had two wars within, the man who was trying to stay faithful and the man who said, fuck all that. I'm going to do it on my own. And it's a really horrible place to be in because now you're fighting this battle within yourself. And you're fighting this battle within yourself while trying to sustain an image of who you think you are versus how you actually acting. And the pressure and the tension eventually got to me, and I became the man who betrayed himself. And that trickled down. I betrayed my God, and then I started betraying myself. I got overweight. I lost, I got overweight. I went from like probably 160 pounds to 230 pounds. Then not only that, that started to deteriorate my relationship because my state started to deteriorate. So she started to be unhappy. Then I started to deteriorate the business because I felt the pressure was so heavy on me. I couldn't even get my ass up to work. I couldn't even get my ass up to work. Like, this is reality, guys. Like, when you're trying to sustain something that you're not going to be able to. Acceptance is much harder. And I always repeat that on this channel. Acceptance is so much harder because accepting means that you're given it. You don't have to earn it. And that's another thing. I felt like I had to earn it. I felt like, I had to live up to what my family thought of me. And I did. And I did, but I didn't realize that even though I lived up to it, it doesn't mean they love me anymore. And I was trying to chase approval and really prove myself, especially to my father, that, I'm worthy of being loved. And it wasn't what I was saying, but the way I was acting and the way I would move and the fear of having to sustain an image. Why do you fear having to sustain an image unless you don't want to be seen a certain way? You know what I mean? Like, I was convinced I was wearing I was convinced I was wearing the image of myself, but really all I was doing was playing a character, and everybody knew it. Everybody would ask me like, "Dude, why are you letting yourself get fat, dude?" And I would be in denial. I would be in denial. I felt like an attack, you know. Well, I'm not getting fat, blah 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 blah. I would be in denial because I knew I betrayed myself at that point, you know. And because of that betrayal, the guilt started to eat me up day by day, day by day. Like, if you've ever been so grievous, you have different nervous system settings per se. You have fight, flight, or freeze. I fucking froze. I shut down completely. So the way I would cope, food, a fuck ton of it too. I was known to eating big ass bags of puffcorns every fucking day, and really the mechanism behind this is I was afraid to be seen. I was afraid of losing what I got. I was afraid of having to rebuild everything I got. And really, I didn't trust myself. I did not trust myself. I felt like, it was luck. Like the Most High gave it to me. I didn't feel like I earned it. And when you feel like you have to earn your worth, you're always going to be striving. You're always going to be pushing to earn more, to feel like more, instead of accepting it as a gift, instead of accepting it that it was something that I had worked for. I felt like it wasn't enough. That pressure got to me. I didn't have no one around me. I didn't have no brotherhood like I do now. It was too much. And the fears and the delusions ate me up. into the day I finally, my relationship finally ended. And then that was a weight lifted up off of me. But by then it was too late. By then the business was already like 6 months removed, or like 3 months removed, and I wasn't making money. And we entered rain season, and that was it. I had to go into a job, guys. And um living in that sabotage cycle, it made me realize the entire time I was trying to sustain an image of a man that I wasn't yet. Like, yes, I proved it by my competence, but I was trying to earn my worth so badly to feel like enough to finally be seen, that when I finally was seen, I didn't feel satisfied being seen. I felt fucking exposed. And I felt like it was only a matter of time before everybody knew the truth about me. And it was funny because during those times, like, yes, I gained the respect, yes, I gained the status, but after those times, I could tell, just from the people around me, the way their energy shifted towards me. It was like, man, look at this great man, how he had reached a certain level at such a young age, and now look at where he's at, you know. And it took a long time to get back to where I'm at now, but I'm glad it happened for me. And I had lost myself for such a long time that now I know the fucking mechanisms, to why we go through certain self-sabotage patterns, which is why this channel's been inspired, honestly. Like, I always talk about identity on this channel. It's because I was that man. I was the man who betrayed himself. I was the man who was so afraid of losing everything that he lost everything. I was the man, who was running away from the man that the Most High was trying to make me to be. I lived all those things out. So, you know, these are things that actually happen, and these are things, I had to learn how to overcome and actually heal from. Okay. So yeah, with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Hit the like and subscribe. If you guys have comments, questions, ask them. Do not be afraid to fucking ask them. Hit me up on Instagram. If you don't know my Instagram, at Hernan Moreno Jr. Down below in the description, I have an ebook, You're a Man Who Betrays Himself. This goes over the entire mechanism of what I just described right now, from the beginning to the end, and how to overcome these patterns. But beware, it is a mirror for who you are and how you're acting. But I give you the patterns so you recognize them in yourself. That way you're able to overcome them. I'm also going to be opening up a one-on-one mentorship, and I already have consultations if you want to click on the calendar link down below. And I have a lot of great things coming for you guys. I also have another ebook that will be coming out soon. So if you're interested in that, just hit the link down below, schedule up a call, and we could go over an identity audit where I go over the patterns that you're living right now. So honestly, you don't have to go through the bullshit that I was going through, or I had to go through. You know what I mean? Granted, yes, it was a blessing, but if we could avoid unnecessary suffering, why not?